Welcome back to Faces and Places across the United States. Today's guest is Amy, calling in from Memphis, Tennessee, originally from Mississippi, to talk to Sandra. Welcome back, Sandra, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, Melissa, and welcome everybody to our web chat, Faces and Places across the United States. My name is Sandra, and I'll be your host today. Today, I'll be talking to our guest, Amy. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Sandra.
Welcome to our chat. It's wonderful to have you here in our American English at State Facebook page. We are so excited that you have joined us today. Before we begin, let's ask our audience where they are joining us from today. Please let us know in the comments box. Amy, thanks again for being here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from and where are you now?
Great. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I am from a very small town in the center of Mississippi called Kosciuszko. But currently I live in Memphis, Tennessee. So you may be familiar with Memphis because of people like Elvis Presley, Memphis barbecue, some of the Memphis rock and roll and jazz, and then the Mississippi River. So that's where I live now, but grew up in rural or countryside of Mississippi called Kosciuszko.
Wow, so you are kind of next to each other, right? Tennessee and Mississippi. So can you tell us a little bit about the weather? How's the weather there today?
Today it's very sunny, still pretty cold for our part of the country. It's about 37 degrees Fahrenheit or about 3 degrees Celsius. So, I mean, that's cold for the South.
Yeah, it's definitely very cold. It's cold and gloomy here, very dark in Washington, D.C. as well. So we're right in the middle of the winter now.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you about Mississippi. Can you tell us what is Mississippi's nickname and do you know why they call it that?
We are the hospitality state. Hospitality means that we're very friendly and warm and inviting to others. We're kind of known for our sweet tea, which is drunk cold with lots of sugar, and our wide front porches and inviting people into at least into our porch to enjoy some tea. And we wave at everybody, strangers and neighbors alike. We smile at everybody as well. And we're just kind of known for being warm and inviting or hospitable. And this slide that you share here says Magnolia State, and the magnolia is our state flower. And I really miss it having moved to Tennessee. We don't see as many magnolia trees, but they were everywhere in Mississippi growing up.
That's a beautiful flower too, and definitely you have the hospitality in the South. Every time I have visited the South, people are super friendly. So before we begin our conversation today, I want to tell you where people are joining us from today. We have Angel Cisneros saying hello from Mexico. We have Zavar saying hello from Pakistan. We have Carlene saying hello from Washington, D.C. We have Jay Mark saying hello from the Philippines. We have Yesenia Escobar saying hello from Bolivia. We have Wakali Hamad Osmani saying hello from Afghanistan. Mano Safa from Algeria. Luis from the Netherlands. We have Mano from Algeria. And we have Junior Pascual from Angola, just to name a few. We have people watching us from all over the world today. I also wanted to share some of the comments and questions we had. We had a lot of great interest and comments in our on our Facebook pages. So here are some of our comments and questions. We have Saima asking, I want to know all about Mississippi since I don't know anything. We have Bevindo saying, hello, Amy, I want you to tell me a little about Vicksburg National Cemetery where Union soldiers and veterans were buried. We also have Claudia saying, I would love to know about wildlife. We also have Bevindo saying, oh, we already read that one. We have Arellano saying, where do you live? Describe your hometown. Why is the main religion? So we have lots of great questions. We have Safar asking, what is so special about your childhood that you still remember? I think I have a question for you about that. Yeah. We have Alifia Gaia saying, I would like to know about their culture and the school systems. And we have Rusi saying, tell us about the famous Mississippi River, please, just to name a few. So thanks again, Amy here. We have a lot of questions to cover. So I want to ask you about your hometown.
Mm-hmm.
Could you please tell us what do you consider your hometown to be and describe it for us?
Sure. So I am from Kosciuszko, Mississippi, which is named after a Polish general who fought with the Americans in the American Revolutionary War. Then he traveled down the Natchez Trace, which was a very well-used path at that time, and started a settlement in the southern part of the United States, which is now known as Kosciuszko, after him. Kosciuszko is in the countryside. We call it the sticks, meaning it's in the forest. There's lots of pine trees, lots of woods around it. And it's only got about 8,000 people who live there. So it's a very small community where everybody really knows everybody. We have only one school system, so every child pretty much goes to the same kindergarten through 12th grade. Whether you are rich or poor, live in the city limits or outside the city limits, we all grow up together. And actually is one of the best school districts in the state of Mississippi. So I was very blessed to attend schools in Kosciuszko because of that. So yeah, we're a very close-knit community. We get along pretty well with one another, and we know each other, and we joke that we're probably also related to about half of the residents there, just because many of our families are generational. I know my mother grew up there and her mother grew up there as well. So we third generation Kosciuskan.
Well, so you're related to probably half of the town, like you said, including somebody famous. So I want you to tell me, what is something special and unique about your hometown? I heard that there are some famous people from there. Can you tell us who?
Yes, and this was actually something that was in the questions, was about Oprah Winfrey. She is from Kosciuszko. She was born in Kosciuszko and lived there until she was about 7 years old. And so there's a marker for her home site, but her home is not standing anymore. However, the church, I think it's called Buffalo Baptist, the church where she sang and performed in front of a crowd for the very first time, is still standing in Kosciuszko. And she's actually been really helpful and influential in our community. She started a Boys and Girls After School Club and paid for it to be built. It's a very nice, large facility for children to go to after school. And she came to Kosciuszko for the ribbon cutting ceremony, and then spoke at the Coliseum in Kosciuszko. So that's probably the closest I had ever been to a celebrity, was when Oprah came and spoke after the ribbon cutting ceremony. She's also bought several homes after Hurricane Katrina. She bought some homes for some of the impoverished people in our area. So she's been very influential and helpful with our community.
It's really cool to have seen her and also know that somebody so famous is from your hometown. Very cool. So I know that the South is famous for a lot of festivals. So can you tell us about a festival in your town that you remember celebrating every year?
Absolutely. So my favorite festival that I attended is the Natchez Trace Festival. As I said, the Natchez Trace was a path that that went down from Nashville, Tennessee, all the way to Natchez, Mississippi, which is on the Mississippi River. And so Kosciuszko is one of the stops along the Natchez Trace. So we have a festival every year, the last Saturday in April. And so it's, just getting warm, which is great for being outdoors. We all gather on the court square, and there are vendors set up with tents, and they sell a lot of homemade goods. You'll have potters, leather work, woodworking, lots of great food, and Native Americans from the Choctaw Indian Reservation, which is about an hour away, will come and play music and sell their leather work. and provide demonstrations for onlookers. Farmers will bring their small animals and set up petting zoos. And then really the whole community will get involved. Church groups and community groups and school groups will come and perform in the streets. And so you get all these different talents that come together, and you oftentimes spend the whole weekend on the square, it seems like.
Look
So
at this beautiful
it's a great time.
Yeah, of woodwork. But you also told me that there is a contest, and you participated in this contest. I want to hear about it.
Okay, so in 2005 was the first year that the Natchez Trace Festival included a pageant, the Miss Natchez Trace Festival pageant. And at that point, I was a senior in high school. And so I decided, why not? That'll be fun. So I entered the Miss Natchez Trace Festival pageant, and I won second runner up. I got a bouquet of flowers and a trophy, and it was a lot of fun.
It sounds like a great time.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about a special memory you have about your hometown, either in the winter or summer months?
Sure. So when I was a teenager, we would, is when we kind of started this, but the Big Black River runs through Atala County, which is the county where Kosciuszko is located. And we would pack the four-wheelers, pack the pickup trucks with picnic supplies and tents and fishing poles and towels. And we would load up and drive down to the river, and we would spend the entire day on the sandbar and go fishing, lay out, go swimming, and have a picnic out there. Now, our section of the Big Black River, and a lot of the Big Black River, but our section especially, is fairly removed from civilization. So we would put the four-wheelers on the back of pickup trucks and drive the pickup trucks until and pull off onto the grass, and then unload the pickup trucks and load everything onto the four-wheelers and take the four-wheelers through cornfields and cotton fields. And then we would go through the woods, take a sharp left into the woods that seemed to go nowhere, and go through the woods for a little while. And then all of a sudden it would just open up onto the sandbar that you see in the picture here. And so it was pretty well removed from civilization. Lots of fun, but you better have plenty of clean water and lots of sunscreen, food, all of that if you plan to spend the day. So we would plan all of that and just have a great time out on the water.
From the picture, it looks like it was a wonderful time, and you continue to do it, which is great. So when you were growing up, where did you hang out with your friends? Is there a favorite place that you remember?
Well, because Kosciuszko is so small, there aren't a lot of hangout spots. But for me, I spent a lot of time at church. I know there were a couple of comments asking about churches in the area. And yes, there are lots of churches in the area. Church played a large role spiritually and socially for many of the youth in Kosciuszko when I was growing up. We had Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night activities. We had breakfast there on Tuesday mornings. We would have after school activities on Fridays, sometimes over the weekend. I played basketball there 2 days a week for about 6 years. We were to say that I was there every time the doors were unlocked was an understatement, because my mom she played the piano for the church, and my dad was a deacon at the church. So they actually had keys. So I would sometimes just come with them to the church while my mom practiced the piano, and just talk with the pastors or the staff members, or run up and down the halls, slide up and down the staircases. We were there nearly every day of my childhood.
Great memories. So if you're just joining us, we are chatting with Amy, who is talking to us about her hometown in Mississippi. So can you share with us about an important landmark in your hometown or a place that you remember a lot from growing up?
A neat landmark is in the city cemetery. There's this large statue of a woman in 1800s clothing. And she even had, I think, a parasol in one hand, which is like the little dainty umbrella. And there was a lot of folklore around this statue, still is. So what I believe is the true story is that her name is Laura Kelly, and she died around 1890. And her husband he grieved, and so he sent for an Italian sculptor to make a life-size statue of her. And then he had it erected in the cemetery over her grave, looking at his home. He even built a second story onto his home so that he could sit and look out the window and see the statue of his wife anytime he wanted to. So since that time, of course, there's plenty of ghost stories and lore around the statue. Some say that if you visit the cemetery on a full moon, you'll be able to see her weeping. The statue will weep. Others say that they've seen her statue move on certain days, maybe on Halloween or something like that. So as a teenager, we were all dared at least once to go into the cemetery on a full moon and take a picture with the Laura Kelly statue. So I've actually seen her statues on other websites promoting ghost stories and travel stories and things like that. So apparently her folklore has really caught on with the region.
I don't know if I want to go and visit, but pretty cool. I have one more question for you, and then our time is running up, so I have some questions from the audience as well. So can you describe the pace of life in your hometown? Can you describe it?
Slow. We always joked growing up that if we saw it in a fashion magazine, wait a few years and it'll be popular here. If it's fashionable on the East Coast or the West Coast or in Europe, give it 5 or 10 years and it'll be fashionable here. So like, for example, the Birkenstock shoes were all the rage when I was in junior high and high school, but they were originally famous in the rest of the United States in the late 80s. The same is true for when flare jeans came back into style. I remember getting a pair in about 7th grade, but of course the flare jeans were really popular in the early 90s and late 80s. And then also the hacky sacks, those little woven balls of beads or of beans that kids and teens would play with. Those were popular in the rest of the United States, early 90s or late 80s. And we got them probably 1998, something like that, about 8 years after the rest of the United States decided they were cool toys. That's when they became cool in Kosciuszko as well.
Oh, wow. Okay, I have one question from a kind of related questions from the audience. Who has the best barbecue, Mississippi or Tennessee?
Oh, that's tough because, I've tried both. I think Tennessee has probably better barbecue. Now, if you were to ask about catfish, that's Mississippi all the way. You want a fried fish dinner with hush puppies and catfish, that's Mississippi. And we're good at barbecue, but I do like the Memphis dry rub barbecue as well.
Oh, now I'm hungry. Okay, if you have 3 words to describe your hometown, what would it be?
Oh my goodness, that's a tough one. Close knit, which is a hyphenated word, so it counts as one. Gosh, this is tough.
Well, you mentioned that it's slow, so
yeah.
And then you also mentioned a lot of wildlife.
Oh yes, there's lots of wildlife here. Country, so close knit country, and slow. Oh, I hate to say slow because it's really a warm spot. So we'll say warm, close knit, warm, and country.
Very nice. Okay, so we have a few more comments and questions, but I know we're running out of time. So one of questions, let's see if you can answer this one. Do you play any musical instrument?
I do. So my mom plays the piano at my home church, so she taught me to play the piano. I don't play nearly as well as she does. And then our hometown actually has a really good band program. We're one of those band programs that's well known regionally and used to be known kind of nationally as well. So I played the clarinet in the school band for about 9 years, and I'll still occasionally pick it up and play with it.
Very, very nice. Well, Amy, we are running out of time, and we just want to thank you again for being here, and thank you for this great conversation we had. We learned a lot about Mississippi, and hopefully our viewers also learn a little bit about the history and your amazing hometown, famous too. So we hope you all continue to share your ideas through social media. Don't forget to check out our amazing resources to help you practice your English. You can check out our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, our American English at state.gov. So Amy, thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was a pleasure.
And we hope to see you again in our next episode of Faces and Places Across the United States in a couple of weeks. We encourage you to continue to engage with our community virtually as you have done today. So thanks again and Happy New Year. Bye, everybody.
Bye.